Welcome to For My Children. I'm glad that you're here today. We're going to be talking about Ruth. We left off in Ruth chapter 2. Now, Ruth had been traveling with her mother-in-law, and she had been coming to this new land to be with this new God. And she didn't even know this new God. So we're going to talk about this God. We're going to talk about how she starts to find out who this God is and how this God will work in her life, and why it was a good decision to choose this God. So last, we found that Ruth made this free choice to become as one of the Jews, leaving all the old gods behind, her family and her custom ways behind, which is really good. But they had arrived at the time of the harvest. So we're going to read this, Ruth chapter 2, and we're going to start to break it down as we go. Now Naomi had a kinsman, and her husband, a mighty man of wealth, of a family of Elimelech, and his name was Boaz. Now Elimelech was Naomi's husband, and he had died in this foreign land that he wasn't supposed to be going to. And when she came back, Elimelech they think it's a cousin, they think it's a brother, but he is a family line. But there is one, we'll find out later on in the story, that there is one closer than he is. But God is going to work it out so that Boaz ends up marrying this woman. Anyway, he's a rich man, and he owns this field, this crop. Now Ruth, the Moabitess, said unto Naomi, Now let me go into the field and glean the ears of corn after him, in whose sight I shall find grace. And Naomi said to her, Go, my daughter. Now, when the Jews have a piece of land, they are supposed to leave this land on the edges and the top of the field. The top of the crops and plants are for the birds. The edges of the field are for like a welfare system, different than our system. Here, we say, well, you don't work, we'll feed you. There, they say, you don't eat, you don't work, you don't eat. So the cropmen were to leave the edges of the field. So if there was somebody hungry, they could go and glean those fields and do their own work and get their own money. And that way they didn't, they were able to work, but they didn't get it given to them. They had to work for it. Now, she said to her, Go. And so she went and she came and gleaned the field after the reapers. And as there was her hap to land on the field belonging to Boaz, who was one of the kinsmen of Elimelech. Well, that was really fortunate because there's a lot of fields, a lot of rich men, a lot of people that had their heritage that were cropping these lands. And out of all the land she picked, she just happened to land on Elimelech. Now, Naomi had not told her where to go because she just happened on it. So this is good news for her, and we're going to find out why. She gets many blessings from this in a moment, and we're going to see what those are. Now, behold, Boaz had came from Bethlehem, and he said to the reapers, The Lord be with you. He was a godly man, and he was blessing his workers before he even talked to them, which is a great way to start your day. He knew that with his workers, he would get good work if he took care of them. And they answered him, and they said, The Lord bless you. And then said Boaz to his servant that was set over the reapers, Whose damsel is this? Out of all the workers that were working for him in his field, and he noticed this new person on the field. That's great that a boss can see the new people and know who it is. Even when he's traveling and coming back and forth, he may have other fields, but he sees what's going on in his field and he's taking care of it. And that servant that was set over the reapers answered and said, This is the Moabitess damsel that came back with Naomi out of the land of Moab. She traveled here. She's a foreigner, and here she is in the land. And so he told her exactly who she was. And she said to me, I pray you, let me glean and gather after the reapers among the sheaves. So she came and continued even from morning until now, and she tarried just a little while in the house. It's hot in these lands. It gets 110 to 130 degrees. It's hot. So when you worked all day, you get hot, need a little break, you need a little shade, you sit down. So she just tarried for a little while, but she'd been working all morning long. Then Boaz said unto Ruth, Hearest thou not, my daughter? Go now not and glean in another field, neither go hence, but abide fast by the maidens. Her first blessing. He's telling her, you're welcome in this field. Stay with my women. Don't go to another field, because if you stay with my women, you'll be able to glean and get all the crops, and you'll be okay. And I'll give you, I'll make sure that you're taken care of, and we're going to see some ways that he's going to do that for her. Huge blessings. Let the eye be on the field that they do reap, and go after them. Have I not charged young men that they shall not touch thee? What's important about that is, in that day, the Jewish men didn't do anything. They wouldn't dare to do it to their own women. But if it was a foreign woman, they could rape her. They could do anything and not feel guilty about it because she wasn't one of their own. So Boaz said, leave her alone and give her safety. Now, if they had done something, they would lose their job or get stoned for it because they were on his property, and he told them already what to do. And when thou art athirst, go to the vessels and drink that which the young men have drawn. What's important about that is that the water, if she had to go get her own, was probably in the middle of all the different fields. And if she had to go get her own, she'd have to go all the way out there and come all the way back and get it. Now remember, she came with nothing. So what was a blessing about this is that when she got home and moved into this land, and she just started right away, she didn't even have time to gather up any leather. They would take leather from a cow or from an animal, a camel maybe, and they would mold it into like our canteens. It would be something that would hold water. And so they would mold it into that, and then they'd let it dry. Then they'd be able to put their water, their juice, their wine, whatever they were going to put into it, and take it. Well, she didn't even have to take it. She didn't have to carry it, anything, when he provided her with this water. And so this was a blessing to her because not only would she have to go get it, she would lose all that time for work. And when it's so hot, it's nice to have a sip. You might need one every half hour. So that was a real blessing. Then she, Ruth, fell on her face and bowed herself to the ground and said to him, Why have I found grace in your eyes, that you should make knowledge of me, seeing I am a stranger to your land? So she's humble, and she's thinking about him now, and she's coming to him, and she's saying, Oh, your blessing, this is a bigger blessing I ever even thought I would get. Thank you so much. And Boaz answered and said unto her, It has fully been showed unto me all that thou hast done to your mother since the death of thy husband, and how thou hast left thy father and thy mother in the land of thy nativity, and art come into a people which knoweth not heretofore. He knew Naomi was his family, and he knew this Ruth came with her. And he had been talking to the townspeople, finding out who this Ruth was and what kind of woman she was. And he was blessed by the kind of woman she was, that she would leave her other gods, that she would leave her family, and on purpose come to help this mother-in-law and try and get to know her gods. And then, not even that, more than that, go out and work for her, because she wasn't a lazy woman. So he was so happy with the personality that she was, he wanted to bless her back. The Lord recompense thy work, and full reward be given thee of the Lord God of Israel, under whose wings you are come to trust. Because you come to trust on the Lord, I know my Lord wants to bless you. I want to step in there and bless you. Let him use me to bless you. Wow, that's pretty special. Then she said, Let me find favor in thy sight, my Lord, for thou hast comforted me, and for thou hast spoken friendly unto me, thy handmaiden. Let me move this a little bit. And though I be not like one of your handmaidens, but Boaz said unto her, At mealtime now come hither, and eat of the bread, and dip your morsel in the vinegar. So she sat behind the reapers, and he reached her parched corn, and did eat, and she was satisfied, and left. Now, this is another blessing, because She didn't have to make a meal and bring it with her. Everyone else probably had to carry this meal that was working on the outside edges of this field, but she didn't have to do that. Now she got to eat the very best of the meal because Boaz was a rich man. He didn't do anything just do it. He did it very well. And so he brought her in and he fed her like one of the hired hands. And so she was so blessed with that because she probably didn't even have time except for what they had carried on their backs or what they'd carried on one horse or a camel, whatever it was that they came to this land with. That's all she had that she carried. So when she started working right away, because it was barley season and she knew she needed to make money. So this helped her to be able to eat and not have to worry about it. Okay. And then when she rose up to glean, Boaz commanded his young men, saying, "Let her glean even among the sheaves, and reproach her not." Well, if she's preaching gleaning among the sheaves, that means that they haven't got it all picked yet. So she's going and getting it, and Boaz is saying, "It's okay. Bless her. Let her go wherever she wants to go. I'm blessing her." That was something special. "Also let fall some from your hands on purpose for her, and leave them, that she may glean them, and rebuke her not." So in other words, give her more than she would be getting on her own. Give her everything. Just keep giving her some. So now her little bit that she would have got is going to become a whole lot more because they're going to just keep dropping handfuls all along the way. And Boaz is telling them, "Bless her. I want her blessed. I want her to be taken care of." I'm not saying give it to her, just hand it to her, drop it on the ground. They've already picked it, and she's still got to go pick it up again. So you know how hard it is to bend over all day with your back. So he's saying, I want her blessed anyway, but she's going to work for it still. And do not rebuke her. In other words, don't get mad at her for picking it up. So she gleaned in the field until eve, and she beat out what she had gleaned, and it was about an ephah of barley. So that's about 60 to 80 pounds. So she's getting the 60 to 80 pounds that she's going to be able to take home when she probably should have had maybe 15. So she's gotten so much more than she would have normally got. And so she just feels really blessed. And she knows that it's a blessing because she sees the other women there that are not getting as much. And then she took it up and went to the city, and her mother-in-law saw what she had gleaned, and she brought forth and gave unto her that she had reserved, that she stuffed. So now, not only was the blessing that she had gotten all this food for herself and all this extra that she gleaned, now she has enough money, she has enough food for her mother to eat. And so now when she comes home with this that's already beaten out, and that way she's not carrying as much of the hay and straw part, but she's carrying the seeds. She's carrying the part that's going to make the flour. She's carrying it home to her mother-in-law where they can get it. Well, what they have to do with it is they have to take it, make it into flour. Then they might make it into bread, or they might make it into a pie, or they might make it into donuts, or they might make it into something. Then they will sell that. That will be able to give them the money they need to get the other things they need. But if she's getting so much more the whole time she's gleaning, then Boaz is taking care of her, and they're able to supply all the needs and things that they need to get. What a blessing for her and her mother-in-law. Now her mother-in-law said unto her, "Where did you glean today? And where wroughtest thou? Blessed be he that did take notice of you." And she showed her mother-in-law to whom she had wrought, and she said, "The man's name whom I wrought today is Boaz." Her mother-in-law knew that something special had gone on. Her mother-in-law knew that she had been totally blessed because she knew that wasn't normal. She'd been around poor people, and she knew what they would bring home if they went out to work in the field and what they gleaned, especially like during those years before they left, when they kept coming and taking everything. There wasn't a lot. Remember, I told you about Gideon. So now, here they are, and she's gleaning this, and she's coming home with this huge armloads of stuff that she can just carry. And so, anyway, her mother-in-law knows that she's been so blessed. Now, Naomi said unto her daughter-in-law, "Blessed be the Lord, who left not his kindness to the living and to the dead." Left not off his kindness to the living and to the dead. And Naomi said to her, "The man is a near akin next to us. one of our next to kinsmen. Whoa, kinsman, a near kinsman. So this is Elimelech's father. No, sorry. This is Elimelech's cousin or brother or uncle. This is one near kinsman who would marry into the family. His job was to marry Ruth, if he chose to, and take over the land and raise up a child. The child would then get that inheritance that would belong to Ruth's first husband and that child with that name, so that his name wouldn't be taken off the planet. So, so this is something very special that happens. And a lot of times that these men that marry these women have another wife already. And so when they marry, they've got to divide that heritage and give part of it to that whole land that would be to Mahlon, Ruth's first husband. That whole land would then go to him, this son. And then he'd also have to divide the land of his other sons, if there were other sons. So this is an important step that was done in the Jewish custom, so that family members wouldn't get left out if there was war or something going on. So she said he's our next of kinsman. She didn't remember about the other brother or cousin or that there was one nearer. So Ruth the Moabitess said, he said unto me also, thou shalt keep fast by the young men until they have ended the harvest. So in other words, stay with the men so that they can protect you. And Naomi said to Ruth, her daughter-in-law, it is good, my daughter-in-law, that thou goest with his maidens, that they meet not in any other field. So she kept fast by the maidens of Boaz to glean until the end of the barley harvest and the wheat harvest, and dwelt with her mother-in-law. So here she is. She's taking care of her mother-in-law. She's taking care of everything that she needs to take care of. And so now we need to remember, Boaz blessed her in many ways. He blessed her with water. He blessed her with wheat. He blessed her with extra water. He blessed her with food. He gave her freedom to drink from the watering hole. Let's see. Okay. So he didn't do this for everybody. So he did this for her. And he did it because he had heard in town what a great woman she was. Okay, we're going to end on that note, and I will see you again. I'm probably going to make the next one in a minute. I'm running a little behind on these. My grandson has come to live with me, and so I'm busy trying to do homework, so it takes a little more time, but I'll be doing 2 or 3 at a time when I do them probably. Thank you. Be blessed, and have a blessed day. For my children, and as always, let the Lord walk with you.